Hello and welcome back. Now all the plastering has been complete in the areas that was required to be finished. The plaster has come in and done a lovely job. Very smooth and flat. So yeah, pleased with that. Now we can start to build the features in this section and close that section for the wall hung toilet, and then back in the shower room and get all the connections and the water on and tested before I close, insulate and board this section and then build the detail in there. So yes, what a view out. You can see that lovely blue skies. Beautiful. Now the first fix is all complete. It's all been tested over the weekend. Everything's insulated. So I'm confident now I can get that closed up. Just drop them down. That's it. And I can carry on with the insulation in between the metal stud and then start to get that wall boarded. We've got the head coming out of the ceiling, the hand held just there. So that's ready. I can crack on. Now I've got the bench created, the floating bench. So I've tied it into the studs there. There's a timber in between all the metal studs, picking up the back. I've doubled it all up and tied it all in. It's absolutely solid. There's going to be no shake, no wobble. Now I can get on and close this wall up. Just got that sheet of insulation just to put in that last section there, which I've got cut. That can go in and we're all good. I can start closing this up now and get on my way. Now the drain is going to fall in under there. However, I need to close the sidewalls up first to get the measurement of the wall-to-wall drain bang on. So that's okay to leave for now. I've got this hatch, that hatch that I'll open up and run the waste in and connect all that up. But priority at the moment is the walls. So I'm going to start closing up. Here, what I'm doing is I'm boarding the wall with a tile backer board. This is designed to take the weight of the tile. It's got waterproof coating. It's constructed from foam, so it'll insulate. It has more benefits than any other material. And this is the correct product to use for all tiling aspects in wet and dry areas. Now, to waterproof joints, there is other ways of doing it. However, this is the specific way that I'm doing it. I am not using any other adhesive than the correct adhesive, which is called Board Fix, made by Jacko Board, who also make these boards. However, I'm using this material to seal the joints. And this is not like a silicone. It's a lot better than that. It's a PU adhesive, but it's designed for use for these boards to seal, construct. It's the proper stuff. So don't be using anything else other than that. It's quite simple. Just run a bead on the joint and drop your board in place and then just wipe the excess off. Okay, so I've given you a little update as to what's happened, what's gone on while I've been off camera. Now, obviously the bench, the feature wall is all formed and this whole room is boarded. Now, what is left once I get the custom wet tray installed is to waterproof all the internal corners, external corners, and any joints that may need tanking. I've tanked them as I go. What I mean by that is I've used the PU adhesive that is designed to be worked with these boards, and it seals the joint. Now what I will do is just go over all the screw holes and just fill those in, but I'll show you that later on. So my focus now, the drain is in and it's a wall-to-wall drain. It's going to be hidden obviously underneath that bench. Now I need to get a 10mm board down first. The reason I need to get a 10mm down is because the finished part of the wedge board is 8mm. Now the gap from the bottom of that drain to the underside of the lip is 18mm. So I'm using a 10mm first, and then my 8mm wedge board will slide in underneath. Then on this side, the build up is 20mm on the highest part of the wedge. So therefore I'll be using a 12mm board, and then the next wedge board will start with 8mm to meet the height of the 20mm, which is at the first point. That will then create an even fall all the way to the drain. Okay, and there we have the first layer down, which is the 10mm. I've glued the joints, although we're going over it, I've glued the joints just to tie it all together and just add to that strength. But now I can start getting the wedge board cut in before I stick it straight away. I need to cut the boards. They're 120 by 120, so I'll cut them into the space and then I can knock up and get them stuck. Same sort of process, glue and screw, just to ensure no movement. Okay, so if a few of you was a little bit lost in translation to how this has to work. Now this is the back side of the board, which is 20mm. So I've put a 12mm board up against it so that my 8mm sits flush and the calculation is right, and we have a 20mm this side. Now that creates a continuous fall. So in actual fact, 20 plus the 12 is 32mm this end, and it's 8mm down that end. So that's how you use these pre-wedged boards to create custom wet trays. Now I'm using the Jacko fix between all my joints to tie everything in so that it's nice and strong and there is no movement whatsoever. These are also, I'm going to put bigger screws through to catch these boards. They're glued, and as you can see, the Jacko fix up against that edge, so at every point, every individual board is tied together, so there is no way that that can move and cause any problems in the future. Whenever you're doing sort of wet tray areas, you need to be bulletproof. They need to be strong. So now I've got all my pieces cut. It's just a matter of fixing them in, screwing them down, which you've seen me do a million times, and that process doesn't change. That stays exactly the same. But if you're thinking of using this wedge board and you have a 2.4 length and you can't get the tray because they don't make them, this is custom, so this works. Right, here is the 18 level, just demonstrating flatness of the board, and obviously the bubble is falling towards the drain. So it just shows that everything is all falling back from left to right. It's all doing exactly what it's supposed to do. There you go. It's all doing what it's supposed to do. So now the tray is formed, the tanking is the next step, which is what I'll be jumping onto tomorrow, taping all the joints. And I will be using an uncoupling membrane over the top. And then I will be tanking, waterproofing those internals once the uncoupling membrane is down. And then I can tile the floor. Then I'll show you the detail on the drain, how I make all that watertight. And yeah, we're pretty much ready for tiling. I've just got a couple of boards to put on there, which I'll do, but I'm using it as a bit of a store at the moment. Try not to puncture it. But that is this lovely shower room, 1.6 by 2.4, with a bench, feature wall, 2 niches, LED lighting. It's got the works. So this is the update currently now, fully up to date. So off camera, I've done quite a bit. We've had it obviously plastered, which is all dried out nicely. The floor's very sticky because I've just primed it, acrylic primer, getting ready for the boards. And the shower area, ceiling head is in, patched up, and that just needs scrim tape. I've scraped back the original plaster by a few mil to get the scrim in, so then we can fill that back in and make that invisible. Inside is all fully waterproof now. Yes, I use the board fix in between. However, I was sealing up the internals with the tape, and obviously the externals of the niches and the feature wall there, and obviously the seat. And I thought, look, while we're at it, let's make it bomb proof. That's exactly what I've done. Now obviously the tile isn't coming out on the outside. We're going to cap that inside off with stone. So all of that, it's going to be stonework. And then we're going to fully tile all in here. Got a bit of a two-tone tile going in. And then the wet tray. Now the drain is hidden underneath the bench, just to create a more seamless fall. And we're at high point here, obviously, low point there. These are the wedge boards, so you've just seen that. However, you didn't see me install them. I'm just feeling that this job is very, it's a big thought process, making sure everything's bang on. Sometimes it's very hard to put the camera on. I'm one man, so I can't really do everything. Who knows, maybe in the future I'll have someone part-time. But this is the WC area, which is nicely shut off with that dividing wall to create this feature. It's currently got all my tools there while I do the floor. The client wanted a thicker top and then a not so thick top at the bottom to create that shelf. So that's come out really nice. That opening is 1800. We'll have 2 mirrors and then 2 wall lights, 2 basins and so on. So that's going to be a nice space. Now you might see the green band. What I've done is I've primed the bottom of the plasterboard so that when I come to do the skirting, it's going to fix nicely and stick well. Now this, obviously this curved wall, I've got plans for that, so we'll come back to that. But yeah, we're pretty much ready for tiling after today. Hell of a lot of preparation works, a hell of a lot. Obviously all the insulating in these walls all the way around. Building obviously the stud walls here and and then forming this, what's going to be a beautiful showering space. You know, let me just show you. So you're in here, you've got your handheld there. You know, if you've had one of them hard days, the head's there, which is in front of this bench. So you've got a load of space to stand up showering. I mean, if you want to sit down shower, you've got the hand shower there. I think the only, when you're comfortable and you're on your way out, the thermostat control's there. So you can turn it on, let it get warm and come in. LED feature lights we're going to have here, 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 and here. Now all under there has been waterproofed as well and sloped so that no water can drip off and run back. It's all sloped the opposite way. The top is obviously sloping forward and the bottom is sloping forward as well, so the water won't climb back and cause any problems. But yeah, this is all fully waterproofed. Now I wanted to do a water test, and a water test means fill this area with water. However, I can't find a bung for that shower waste. I'm 100% confident this is all sealed up, but it would be nice to check. Also, before I tile, this is going to be detraumated, because obviously, yes, you can tile directly on this, but there isn't anything for lateral movement. So the idea is to use the CI matting or a detra matting of whatever brand as the lateral movement. Not this movement, lateral movement, which timber is always moving. You're never going to fix timber where it's not going to move. It's always going to move. Timber will always move. So our substrate is timber. Yes, we're going on top with a cement board, but that doesn't eradicate the movement. The CI matting, the dual 2-layer matting, helps with a lateral movement. If you've got a trampoline, you need to stiffen it up. You need to do the right prep on the subfloor, because just putting CI matting isn't going to work. And I've seen so many people use that CI matting over floorboards. That's incorrect. You need to use it on a ply surface or a cement board surface. It's not designed for floorboards. So yeah, this is the last section now of preparation works. I'm going to get the boards down, the 6mm cement boards. But yeah, a lot of work, a lot of prep, a lot of thought. Might not look it, but there has been. Timber floorboard material is running this way. So I've laid the boards in a herringbone way, just because I thought I could change it up rather than going in straight lines. Now, knowing that I'm going over with a matting, I'm going to go the opposite way to the boards, which is this way. So then it just crisscrosses everything, ties everything together, and none of the same joints are in line. Because if you do that, then what could happen, where that movement is on that joint, it could come through. Now the idea of this is to stop any lateral movement, but also to stop any cracks penetrating through. However, if the floor is not tied in correctly and there's too much movement there, the crack will come through. So your sub base has to be the strongest it can possibly be without any movement. Otherwise, all these products are not going to save you. Now the matting is all cut in, it's time to stick. So I have gone back to using Mappy. There's so many versions of the name that people, the way they pronounce it, but I've always called it Mappy. So this is a fast set. It's the added flexibility formula. So it's grey, and its coverage, they say on the bag, is from 4 to 8 square meters per bag. Obviously that depends on what size notch trowel you'll be using. For this case, installing this matting, I'll be using a 6mm. So I've used Mappy from the beginning, really, of my start of my career, and I can't really fault their products, and they've always been good. The only product I don't really like using is their grout. I just find you've got to knock it up twice. With most grouts, you've got to stir it a couple of times, and you know, it's not a knock up and go type of material, and it does set very, very fast, and sometimes it's a bit too fast. So I don't use their grouts, but I've always liked their adhesives. So that's what I'm going to be using to stick this matting, and I've also got slow setting adhesive, which I'll be using on the walls, which is in white. For sticking the matting, always use grey, always. And then obviously to press the matting in, no more on your hands and knees using a flat rubber float or whatever, the roller. You put a bag on that roller and you just push it in, and that makes sure you have 100% coverage. And this is made by Raimondi. You can see that, focus, there you are. Raimondi, made in Italy. Big brand in the tool industry of tiling. Good products, always been good products. So I'm going to get knocking up and show you how this works. So this is the consistency that you want for installing the matting. It needs to be loose, and it needs to be a lot more pliable than you would when you're setting tiles. That's what you want. and there's the coverage. So we know we're good. So the CI uncoupling, Detra, whatever you want to call it, is down. And I'm just going to finalise the last part of waterproofing, although it's all watertight underneath. Just going to do the seams again, just on top, just so that nothing sits underneath. I'm just going to seal that off all the way around. But yeah, just fill in all the voids first, and then just paint the solution on, and just tie everything in with the banding as well. And then I'm just going to finish the outside and the corners of those, that up and over, just to, believe it or not, in and out water, you're wet, coming in and out. 9 times out of 10, the client will have a mat there. However, it's good practice, get that watertight as well. And then we are ready for the floors. I said before I wanted to get the details in, but we're still waiting on those tiles, which is the counters and the lower shelf there, and that floating bench, but we're still waiting for those. It's been a huge delay, so it's forced me to do the floor first, and I'll have to probably crack on with the walls, because I think I'll get those done prior to them arriving, or I'll be ready to do those prior to them arriving, should I say. So yeah,